So you just destroyed my body as being a gift to me from my creator.
My friend thinks it's a prison.
You sound born into a delusion.
Anything I create is a fractal of my delusion.
Johnny, your body's a gift to everybody.
That beard is
mine.
sure, that beard.
I've got lots of gravity mass here.
Yeah, we can just move forward from that. Yeah, we're good.
Hello, Mick. How's it going?
Hey, Tony. Good to be back.
I like to play that intro. It's funny, my camera's a little off, but I like to play the intro because it reminds me to keep things light and airy and kind of fun. And because I think a lot of people are too serious in this, and it's a genre.
It's serious times, apparently. Serious stuff is going on.
I don't know. I think I think I'm a little older than you. Maybe I turned 60 in October, and I've been
a couple of years on me.
It's funny you say that about. It just seems it's been going on. First of all, let me say thank you for coming. Okay, I forgot. I'm a bad host. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you carving out some time to come. And just a show note: Alexei Novitsky may pop in here in a minute. But what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that you said something about scary times. What did you say? What was
serious times? Yeah,
serious times. Yeah. And I guess if you're like me and you've been been interested in this subject for as long as I have, since I was like 12 when I thought I saw a UFO. It seems to have. It's almost like you get sort of used to the idea.
Yeah.
But so I don't take it as seriously for some reason. Maybe I should take it more seriously.
Well, I mean, I think if obviously we're talking about Dave Grusch and his whistleblower complaint or whatever they would call it. I guess it is a whistleblower complaint, and I mean, if it's true, it's pretty serious. And I think it's serious in the sense that it's kind of escalated to a new level, in that we're actually getting someone who's a named whistleblower from the intelligence community to go to Congress and testify in Congress. He's got other people backing him up, and everybody's coming out of the woodwork. No evidence yet, but it's there's promises of evidence. So yeah, we've been here before to some degree. I think. I'm sure you remember kind of similar people saying that they were going to be whistleblowers or saying that there were whistleblowers. But I think this one is a bit different, and I think it's going to go one of two ways, really. Like either it's going to be a big disappointment, or something will come of it.
So you're taking it. You're not approaching it in the same manner as some of the other, like as say even the Navy pilots' testimony.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is not testimony of them having experienced something. Personal testimony of an experience is one thing. But when you're testifying that, if you go to this room at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, there will be a flying saucer in it, and you can do it, and you're Congress, you should go and have a look. Or these are the names of the people who run the program, you should ask them what the program is about. That's a very different thing, because what you're doing there is you're making claims, which are verifiable. Whereas when someone's giving their testimony of something that they thought they saw, there's no way of checking it. Like anything you can do, possibly is like look at radar tapes and things like that, but generally, like you don't get good correlation with things. Otherwise, we'd probably hear more about it. But now it's a whole big thing that the U.S. has 12 intact flying saucers, or 12 flying saucers at least. So I'm not sure if flying saucers is the term they'd use, but craft of non-human origin or exotic technology, and presumably these are things that can be looked into. So it's a bit different.
So you think we may be getting to a point? What's the question? Are you? I know what some people in the audience might be thinking. Are you becoming more of a believer
No, no, I'm not. See, I'm still waiting for the evidence. I view this as being like, it's kind of like bringing things to the boil, forcing the frog to, like, get out of the pot or get cooked. It's a terrible analogy, but it's something's gonna happen. It's like something's got to give. This pilot saying, like, I saw a flying tic tac. You can't really do much with it either way. Some people believe it, some people won't. You can't check it. But if it's something that we can check, then that'll be great. I personally have very low expectations of actual evidence or admissions of alien technology being revealed from this. I wouldn't rule it out, but I historically, like, these things haven't played out, and I think the people involved are kind of like this cast of characters. I mean, a lot of the people involved, like people like Lou Elizondo and Ross Coulthart and Gary Nolan and Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal. All these people are kind of like UFO community people. They're all people who believe already that UFOs are alien spacecraft or alien craft of some sort. And it would be a lot more impressive if we got someone who was looking into it, who verified it, who wasn't already in the club. Some kind of actual investigative journalist who could verify these claims and maybe even look into them a little bit more. So it would have been good, I think, if the story had run in something like the New York Times rather than in the debrief, because obviously that gives you more assurances about fact checking. But it's it's kind of pretty interesting either way.
I guess the thing that first hit me was that people made it seem as if he's testifying to the actual content when he's actually only testifying or has sworn to something someone has told him, not that right. That's part of this may be that work for me is really crazy right now, and I may not have the complete story, to be honest with you. So my impression right now is that he has his testimony or his what he's, I guess, is it testifying to? Is he actually testified, or what is the term that he is?
He's given testimony, and there's kind of various accounts about. Obviously, a lot of what he's telling people is classified when he's actually giving testimony to Congress, members of Congress, and they say that some of it was so classified that he couldn't tell it to some of the congressional staffers. They could only tell it to the actual congressional people. But he's telling stuff that he doesn't really have first-hand knowledge of. People have told him that these things exist, and they've told him that these programs exist, and he believes them, and he assures us that it is true, but he doesn't know himself. So it seems a bit odd that he's so convinced that it is true without actually seeing the evidence.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get around to, was that I know when I started asking questions about this, people were coming back at me with, it's sworn testimony. It's under perjury. He could be sent to prison for perjury. And I said, what can he be if he's not lying about someone telling him something. I can say that someone told me something and still be telling the truth, and the content of what that person told me is not the truth. Yeah. So I don't get the whole the vitriol around bringing just trying to ask questions about the event.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could obviously, when someone makes claims, you could say that they're lying. And that would be like, obviously a bad thing. If he was lying about these people telling him these things, that would be one thing. But it seems like such a simple thing just to say, like, somebody told me this. So I would, assume basically that he's telling the truth in that some people did actually tell him stuff. Doesn't mean that what they told him was actually accurate, or that he's interpreting it the right way, or even remembering what they told him the right way. I don't know, did he take meeting notes when he talked to these people? people are telling him that there are these crash retrieval programs. It does seem like there are people in, say, the intelligence community and the Pentagon who believe that there are crash retrieval programs, and maybe even some people who believe that they are actually working on these crash retrieval programs. But are we going to get a smoking gun out of this? Are we going to get someone who actually saw the craft and can tell us where the craft are and take us to the craft? Are we actually going to get the head of the program to admit, yes, these are alien craft that have crashed? This is a 30-foot high bell-shaped UFO that we recovered from Italy in 1944. Are these things actually going to come forward, or is it all going to remain behind this kind of wall of secrecy that exists now and may well exist in the future? It's not clear even if it's true, would we even know about it? But I certainly hope we get some answers out of Congress.
I guess I'm just I really hate to be suspicious by nature, but I am. But I guess I wonder why we keep. I don't mean to say keep getting these people, because I don't have any evidence to back up that part of my statement. But it seems like, just in general, that we keep getting people that have this sort of deniability built into their claim. In other words, if it turns out to be false, he can just say, "Well, I was told." I don't understand. I know what the question I was going to ask about that was. Why I don't see this as a whistleblower issue when supposedly the DOD has cleared the information.
Well, the whistleblowing aspect, I think, is maybe two things. One is that he's saying there was retaliation against him for wanting to come forward and tell people about this thing, or asking questions or investigating it. He says he received some kind of retaliation. No one's at all clear about what the retaliation actually was. And he basically left the intelligence community. So he kind of like left fairly early. Does that mean that he was fired or he resigned out of protest? He's like 36 now. He left and he went to Colorado. Well, I guess he lived in Colorado already. That's where a lot of the military stuff is. But he's giving testimony to these people, and I can't remember what I was going to say there. What was the question again?
Well, I guess I was trying to get to the point of when people were, making coming back to me about my questions, and they were saying, "Oh, well, this is part of the Whistleblower Act." He's
okay. So whistleblowing, I guess so. The other thing with whistleblowing is that the stuff that he's telling us is not classified. We can kind of get to that in a second, because that's a question in itself. But he's telling Congress a whole bunch of other stuff which supposedly is classified. So he's blowing the whistle on the program, but he's also making a kind of a whistleblowing complaint to the Inspector General, saying that he is trying to blow the whistle, and yet he was threatened with retaliation. So that's kind of what the whistleblower thing is. But that apparently sets up kind of like a little legal thing where the members of Congress can't question him in a certain way. I don't really understand what it means, because it would seem like they were kind of getting involved with this retaliation thing, and if they ask him hard questions, it would be like retaliation. But I don't really understand what that actually is.
I guess it gives him a bit of cover too, because in the hearing he could say that's means and methods, or that's part of what I can't talk about, or it kind of gives a way to.
You can have a hearing with people who have the correct security classification. I mean, there's certain members of Congress, I believe, who have essentially Title 50 clearance, like the head of the committees, the intelligence committees in the House and the Senate. I don't know that for sure, but it certainly sounds like that's the case. And if not, they can get other people who do have Title 50 clearance and get them to investigate this. He's a 36-year-old guy, and parading him around as if he is someone who's this veteran who's been in the forces for 50 years and is like a general or something. But there must be lots and lots of people who have similar security clearances to him.
So here's T. Carr. He's saying he's spoken with you several times and you've treated him with respect. And that's one thing I've always, that was one thing I kind of wanted to get into a little bit tonight, was just to say, I don't understand the vitriol that you get, because you are always, you're always respectful, and you carve out time for people. Like my channel is not a huge channel, but you made time to come here, and I don't get I guess I wish people would take things just a little less more seriously. And I mean, I think, I've always, I don't know if I mentioned this in our last interview, but I look at every moment in time as a unique moment, right? And honestly, in my religion, I consider each moment sacred. But I'll stick with, the physics part of it, and that I don't believe the past exists, that you can go back to it, and I don't obviously think the future exists. So as I look at something, it's like when I looked at the video of the fella in Las Vegas, the young fella who saw, you and I were talking about this off the air. I said, okay, what things fall out of the sky? Meteors, crashing planes. I didn't jump immediately to aliens. I knew UFO Twitter would, but that's just from my experience with UFO Twitter. But how do we get? And so I guess I juxtapose that with the people who immediately, I have some clips up here I can show where people immediately attack you for just really basically having a different viewpoint or approach than you.
Well, yeah, I think there's a number of things going on. I mean, I think obviously a lot of people are very emotionally involved, and I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, it's perfectly understandable and reasonable that people would be emotionally involved in a subject where they themselves have had some kind of personal experience. I mean, you had a personal experience like when you were 12. I haven't had a personal experience of any kind of UFO encounter or alien encounter or anything, approaching that. But if someone has, they can kind of feel defensive about it, because they feel like almost like the world is against them, because the world doesn't believe in UFOs. A lot of people do, but science and authority and everybody says that UFOs are nonsense, and so they see me doing stuff like analyzing a UFO video, and I'm just trying to explain or figure out what's going on in this video, and it can come across as kind of an attack from their perspective, like I'm trying to debunk UFOs. I'm the UFO debunker, Mick West, and it's understandable that they would kind of, to a certain degree, take that personally. Then the other kind of aspect of that is that I do a lot of my interactions with people on Twitter, and Twitter isn't a very good medium for conveying nuance or detail even. So I'm often giving fairly short responses, and sometimes I don't always put enough thought into those responses, and sometimes I miss qualifiers, perhaps this, and I say, oh, that's a bird, and so I should have said, oh, that's probably a bird, or that resembles a bird. I'm getting better at doing that now, but it can come across as me being abrupt and arrogant. And then I guess there's a third aspect of that. There's people who just don't like me, and they've formed an opinion of me, and they're always saying, oh, Mickey's just so arrogant and dismissive, he doesn't trust what the pilots say, and he's always discarding evidence, and he lies and he makes things up. And they say that, and then other people read that and they believe it, and then they start kind of viewing me through that lens on Twitter. So they've got this experience of me, which is me with my little pithy comments sometimes I make in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. And then they've got people that they trust and respect saying, Mick West is an arrogant debunker, so no one should listen to him. And so, that's how it goes. But whenever I have a more involved conversation with someone, even just on Twitter, if I can do that, like DMs or whatever, or I have a one-on-one conversation like I am with you, then I think I managed to communicate a lot better about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what I think and why I think it and how I am actually interested in this person. And I don't rule out the possibility that aliens are here, even though I don't think it's very likely. It's just, Twitter's not very good at that type of thing.
That was one of the goals for this show, was to show that people, once you spend time with them and talk with them, they're really nice people.
Yeah.
They mean well. They probably have experiences. You mentioned my experience. I still don't consider myself an experiencer because, my mother was very level-headed. She was very intelligent, and she spoke to me about what I saw, and she reasoned it out. And I said, oh, that's great. And of course, at that age, she was worried about me having, PTSDs or something.
Right.
But the thing is, we were always outside. We were always camping, backpacking in the woods of Tennessee, the hills, the Appalachian Mountains. We saw a lot of stuff in the sky back before, Starlink and all these satellites. We saw a lot of things, but we just at that point in time, we were just really admiring nature. We didn't immediately go to UFO.
Yeah.
We would sit around the campfire and try to scare each other with UFO, Bigfoot stories and things like that. But that was for fun, that was part of but the thing we were able to do is I had these people who were, of a certain level of intelligence, and it was fun to debate them as sort of a common person and learn from them. And we don't have that anymore. We don't have this sitting around the campfire, smoking a stogie or whatever. We used to smoke Switzer sweet cigars, but we wouldn't inhale them, just for the act of pretending we were sitting around a fire debating something, but it was fun.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to see these conversations,
Yeah.
And I wish more people would just, on Twitter especially, would have that attitude because honestly, nobody knows the truth.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. The truth is unattainable. That's one of my theories. And by humans, right? I don't think we will ever get to the truth until we pass
the ultimate
over.
truth. Well, it's like you dig down to like one level of truth, and then there's always another level of truth underneath. It's just like in physics, there's Newtonian physics, and then you dig down a bit, there's like Einsteinian physics, general relativity, and kind of underlying that now there's like quantum mechanics, and then you don't know if you can get down below that. Maybe below that there's some kind of simulation that's running the quantum bits. And everything, but
I don't like the simulation theory, but
I don't like the simulation theory.
That would be a good one to debate sometime.
It feels kind of pointless. If the simulation theory is real, then essentially all it is the substrate below quantum.
Yeah.
And so it's just another level of physics, really.
Or right above quantum, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but I guess like you could argue that it might be some kind of projected reality where they only project the bits that you're actually looking at, and then they have to reconcile everything behind the scenes rather than running all of the entire universe at the same time. But it's kind of like a fun thought experiment.
Yeah. I get that. I get that, and it's fun because I always poke at people saying, "Oh, so you believe in intelligent design if it's a simulation?" And they're like, "Oh, no." Because that leads back to a creator.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. But this fella, Anonymous Rex, asked, would you please ask Mick if he thinks it's at least possible that non-human intelligence is present?
Good question. And yes, I mean, I there's very few things that I think are impossible. I don't think the Earth is flat. I don't think it's possible that the Earth is flat. It's kind of seeing so much evidence. But when we're talking about something that we don't have evidence for, we perhaps have some evidence against it, in that the stars seem really far away, and the physics don't seem to really work, and we don't see any evidence of life out there in the universe. But we don't have absolute proof that aliens don't exist or nearby, and we don't have any absolute proof that they're not here. So we can't rule it out. It's like the saying is you can't prove a negative, which of course you can. I could prove I don't have an apple in my pocket by pulling my pocket out and showing there's no apple in it. but you can't prove a universal absence. You can't prove that there's no apples anywhere in America. I mean, you'll find one anyway, but let's say something a bit more obscure. Let's say there's no technical apples anywhere in America. You couldn't prove that because there might be one hiding in a cupboard somewhere. You don't know. It's like with aliens. You can't prove that aliens aren't here. I don't think it's very likely. And I've done a lot of looking into UFO cases and videos and doing analysis of them. And it would be great if one of them turned out to be something like really amazing. But unfortunately, my personal experience is kind of like I'm a negative experiencer here. My personal experience has been like looking at the evidence and then figuring out what it actually is, or kind of showing that you can't really determine anything from this particular thing. And it would be great to actually find something that was, unambiguously a weird thing that you can't explain. But, I haven't really come across it. So just because that keeps happening over and over and over again, like, I get a new video is really exciting. Oh, look, here's 5 lights in a triangle formation over 29 Palms military base. And it's like, could this be the giant triangle craft we've all been told about? It was seen by 80 Marines who were all trained observers, and then nope, unfortunately not. Like, here's a photo of some flares from the other side, and it's the exact same thing. You can see they actually do fall, even though the Marines all said they didn't fall, and so it was actually just flares. So you get used to this kind of promises and interesting cases, and then kind of disappointment that it doesn't turn out to be something interesting. Although I'm less disappointed because I don't really expect that much out of them. But it would be great if a triangular craft did appear over 29 Palms. That would be amazing.
I think you were obviously right about the flares, but it's kind of funny because when I started to do a video on this in SketchUp, I pulled the lights up and I was trying I couldn't even create a triangular shape, even if I created a TR3B or whatever. There's one you can download SketchUp, and I tried to put it at an angle. I couldn't get the lines to line up, and I was like, "This is not even. It's not even close to a triangle."
Yeah,
and it was more of an arc. It was more of an arc shape
at the start. Yeah, it's like dot 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 dot, and it's not perfectly straight lines on the side. And of course, then later they've all changed positions. And you can see there's like this little line at the side of it, which people interpret as being like the edge of the craft, but it's probably actually the smoke trail of that one flare, because the lights and those flares, that type of flares, it's an area illumination flare, so the lights are all designed to shine downwards. So only the flares that are lower down get light. So this one flare at the end gets light on its smoke trail above, but the other ones you don't get so much. So it all kind of fits the whole flare hypothesis, I think.
I actually witnessed those illumination flares. I used to go to these. I used to get invited to these shooting events where it was a Iraqi vet. People here may actually know Eric, Iraq vet 88. Anyway, he would invite me to these events. We would go, and they would have these sort of exotic, he would have class 3 guys with machine guns there and things. One of the things he did one year was shoot some illumination flares in the air. So, it's funny, after you witness those kind of things, you have a different perspective on them. But one question before we get too far away from the non-human intelligence. I've always thought it was interesting that we only perceive, I think I looked this up at one point, and it's less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum, right, that our eyes can see.
Yeah, the visible.
And I've always thought that the reason I brought this up is because people will say, well, you really think they're traveling at warp speed and getting here and traveling across? No, to me, if there are non-human intelligences, to me, it's just we can't perceive them necessarily, with our eyes and with our senses. Maybe that's something. And Lou actually alluded to that in, I think, our first interview, because he was, talking about sensors and infrasound, and which obviously nobody actually probably has the answer to that. But
well, there are also physical things you can detect one way or the other, and if it's a solid object, you can tap it and you'll see it. And if something exists there's a solid, unless it's transparent visible light, then you're going to be able to see it in visible light as well. It'll block light or refract light. So it seems, I don't know, it's almost like it would have to exist on like another dimension or another plane of existence or something, a 4-dimensional sideways extra dimension. So it's very speculative, that type of thing, and it's science that we doesn't really exist to our knowledge. So you may as well say, these aliens are using magic to be invisible.
I like to think of it
the
as
same thing.
I like to think of it as just like dark matter. We haven't discovered, what exactly it is. But
well,
anyway, I'm just saying
you would be able to see it because it'd be this big black thing that's just sitting there.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that kind of I go to when people, talk about aliens on Earth and that kind of evidence, and they show these videos or whatever. I wonder how if these this is kind of a crazy off the side remark, how these aliens live in our atmosphere or breathe our atmosphere. When we go to other planets, we have to have special apparatus. And anyway, that's just a side note.
It depends, like if they need to breathe at all. I mean, we kind of expect alien life to be like us, but it doesn't necessarily mean they need a atmosphere to breathe. I mean, it could be a silicon-based life form that doesn't need oxygen. I don't know. It's like
well, I said that because
of possibilities.
Like in this last event with Las Vegas, the young fella claimed that he heard it breathing or whatever. So
right, yeah,
but
that would indicate something. Maybe you've seen Star Trek. They always go to the planet and they're like, it's a breathable atmosphere. And they take the helmets off. It's much nicer to see all the actors if they got that.
I knew we picked the right planet. But here's Daniel Boone. Actually, he was born up near in Northeast Tennessee, near Daniel Boone territory. But he wants to know if you think it could be a military operation to spread misinformation.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I know there's lots of talk about that type of thing. There's the Mirage Men, I think it's a book and a documentary, which neither of which I've really looked into very much. Claims of this type of thing, where it's like disinformation about UFOs is being used to cover up like an actual military test of technology and stuff like that. So someone sees the B-2 bomber and they feed them some information about UFOs to cover it up. Maybe there's some kind of advanced reverse engineering program, and people have been, who shouldn't be, have been digging into this, and then they've been told that it's actually a UFO reverse engineering program, just to throw them off the scent of what they're actually reverse engineering. If it's something super sensitive, like a 5th generation Chinese fighter or something like that, or 6th generation Chinese fighter, or something that was a spy satellite that was recovered in space by the space shuttle, like on Moonraker. So it's plausible, I guess. But the way it is right now, it seems pretty extreme that this particular thing would be a disinformation campaign. I could see perhaps it might be the result of disinformation. These people working in these programs have become convinced that either their program or some other program that adjacent to them is an alien thing when actually it's something else. But I don't think David Grusch himself is being manipulated by military intelligence. That doesn't really seem to make any sense to me.
Someone mentioned that my microphone might be a little bit loud, so let me know if that's okay.
Mine might be a little quiet. I'll get a bit closer to my mouth.
That's what they say compared to yours, but I'm having to actually use a different microphone because the one I had went out, so that may be part of it. I haven't adjusted it, but
I always have problems with StreamYard, or maybe it's because I'm a soft-spoken British person.
It's funny you say that about British people, because I mentioned it to you while we were off air. I have a couple of British friends that come and visit me almost annually, and I always thought it was funny. The mannerisms are different. I've always wondered how we got from you guys to me, a hillbilly from the hills of Tennessee.
Probably.
I mean, I know my background is more Irish. Well, it's Welsh.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of strange people in the British Isles as well. You know, the Scots and the Welsh. They're they're different.
Well,
There's
that's
all
what I was
kinds of
going to
different
say.
people.
I had a DNA test back a year ago, and it was like 50-something%, Welsh or whatever.
Mm.
And then it's funny because it follows that path of, then it goes to, Bosnian and
All right, like a
over
long,
to India.
long tail.
How did I get from India to?
Yeah, mine's very
Viking?
straightforward. I'm
Yeah.
I think like 3/4 English and 1/4 Scottish, like going back like hundreds of years. Like we don't have no foreign blood in me, going back to the Vikings and the French invaders of 1066. But anyway, yeah, so that's.
I totally threw myself off with that too. That's why I should never get off track. I had a question I was going to ask.
Focus.
It was about mannerisms. What was it going to be? I'm sorry, I lost. I know what it is. If you don't mind, I was going to screen share something.
Sure.
And this is just this is kind of silly, but I was going to get your take on it. I admit the things I do are silly, so we're gonna add to stream, and then I'm gonna go here. This is the thing I just kind of started a couple nights ago, and I really don't even know how to use this software. It's a cloud-based storyboard. I really don't even know how to use it yet, but I wanted to get your take on this, and it's kind of funny. As I was doing it, well, I'll just show real quick. So I've got politicians, and I've got the president up here because I don't think he's really that involved. I've got the man, whoever that is, project managers. I've got intelligence agencies. I got scientific community, and a couple of things kind of stick out to me. Down here, we've got capitalists, social media pundits, debunk. Now, here I gave you credit for being part of the objective class.
Thank you very much. I'm an honorary member of the objective class. I like that.
You're different from the typical debunkers who seem to be closer related to capitalists than so this is just real. It's kind of rough, but what's kind of funny is that in my mind I kept having this feeling that there were links between, like, people are claiming that who's this Richard Butt fella is
Richard Butt
either connected to Lou or it is Lou. Then you got Lou's buddy, his guys, and I like Lou. Don't get me wrong, I like Lou. I'm not.
He seems like a lovely guy.
Yeah, but then you got the military I'm calling these military and intelligence assets, and it is kind of funny. David's history seems to have been kind of wiped off of. This is the only photograph I could find of him, but I guess this kind of exposes my suspicions a little bit.
Yeah.
Where we
I know. I kind of keep wanting to do something like this, but then you kind of start it, and you kind of end up wanting to almost like put everybody together in one big blob because they're all connected. I mean, why is Gary Nolan over here and not next to Lou Elizondo? Because we know.
Well, I've got a line connecting him with.
There's connections, but then you'd have to start connecting all these different things. I mean, like Ryan Graves is connected to, where is that? You don't have the journalists on here, do you? So I was going to say,
well, they're over here.
Leslie Kane.
I need to. I said, I just started last night, and
I've got an older version of it here.
But
it's.
This is what I wish somebody like you had done. I wish you had done something like this because, and I can share it if you want to, if you're interested, but because you do kind of start with these weird associations, like you were saying here, even within these little groups, you find differences among, philosophies and approaches.
Very different. Yeah, I mean, you've got like Avi Loeb there with Gary Nolan and Eric Davis, and those are all very different people.
Yeah.
They're all ostensibly scientific community people, but Avi Loeb, if you read his stuff, he's all like, we must have evidence and we can't go by eyewitness testimony. And Gary Nolan's like, I was visited by ghosts as a child, and I believe in spiritualism and the woo. And we should, and anecdotes are data, and we should listen to eyewitnesses. So they're two different people, even though they're both in the scientific community. And then Eric Davis is a long history of being very involved in this type of thing, and they all have different relationships with all these other people. I started kind of inspired by you. I started doing my own version of it, which all it is just kind of a list of names, and I started drawing lines between them, and I just thought, well, I'm going to end up drawing lines between everybody on here. It's just going to be kind of meaningless. I got Hal Puthoff, Valet, who's this, like Gary Nolan, Eric Davis. So I got those two together. Sheenan, Elizondo, Cahill. So you've got the same type of thing as you do. You don't have Puthoff on here, do you?
Well, I guess he goes over here in the scientific community. What's weird is that I couldn't really decide whether NASA was a scientific entity or a governmental intelligence agency.
But I think maybe like the thread running through some of this is the idea of the invisible college, and to do that better, you'd probably have to go.
Is that the man?
The man? Who is the man?
I don't know. I just feel like there's always the man.
There's a shadowy figure that controls everything. Yeah. I don't know. It's like,
and it kind of goes along too with my theory that the politicians really aren't that connected. They're just kind of in their own little group because they're temporary.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. If you listen to what people talk about these things, you've got Tim Burchett and who's that? That's like Marco Rubio. And what's the name there?
Gillibrand.
Is that Gillibrand?
Gillibrand.
Oh, yeah.
That must be a younger.
They're all kind of younger picture. Tim Burchett now looks a lot more disheveled and.
The software's kind of cool, by the way, if you ever want to use it, because you can type in a name and it'll search the internet for it.
Right. That's nice.
And then it will actually keep the link to that person. Yeah. So it's kind of neat. But so if somebody was seriously into this kind of thing, they would be a decent little thing. But I guess one of the things I've been suspicious of is that all of these people. I actually knew a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and he was one of my best friends. He reminds me of Ryan Graves. It was Lieutenant Colonel Michael Wright. He passed away of liver disease a few years ago. But I would joke around with him, and I would say, "Hey, what's going on?" And this is 20 years ago, starting out. And he would come home, and I would say, "Hey, where are the hot spots?" And he would say, "Oh, I can't say anything, or I'd have to kill you," or. I felt like this guy was my best friend, and he wouldn't tell me anything. So when these guys started coming out, it almost felt to me like they were being kind of told, what to do, what to say and what to do, and you know what I mean. I don't know.
I kind of agree with you somewhat there. It seems like odd how things turn out. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories or anything like that, but people come into the scene and they start doing podcasts. I mean, obviously there's Chris Lato there, and he just kind of discovered that his YouTube channel would be a lot more popular if he did UFO stuff, which he was interested in. He was a little bit of a esoteric guy. He used to do NFTs before, but now discovered he could get into the whole UFO community. But then other people like Ryan Graves there on the left, he's now somehow got this company merged or Merged Point. I think Merged Point is his podcast, and a podcast, and I think he probably has investors, and it's like, who are these people who are investing in this kind of UFO scene, and what are they actually investing in, and what do they know? Do they actually know something? I mean, is there a group of people who know who knew that there was going to be this revelation, and they set up companies ahead of time so that they could kind of capitalize on it? I I don't know if there's anything suspicious there, but obviously something has happened. There is lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. This
Well, and I'm
this
not.
story has been going on for
Yeah.
like a couple of months. The whole Dave I can't remember pronounce his name now. Grusch, Dave Grusch.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say there's anything nefarious. I
No.
mean, obviously, people like. I mean, some people
Well.
would call these grifters. I call them capitalists. I'm trying to be nice about this. I'm not trying to.
Brandon Fugel is an interesting character, though. I've talked to him a few times, and he seems honest, and he actually believes that they're doing science at Skinwalker Ranch, which to me, based on like what I've seen them do there, it doesn't seem very realistic, and I feel like he's to a certain degree is being a little bit misled about what's actually going on there, because it's mostly just a TV show and people doing fairly simple experiments, and it's not like the world's greatest science experiment, which he seems to actually believe it. I'm not sure, so I wouldn't call him like a grifter. He's probably losing money
that's
on
why I don't like the term grifter actually, because it kind of, I don't
Stephen
like
Greer, though. I don't know.
Well, maybe
That's a different kettle of fish.
Maybe we'll add a grifter category. but no, I've talked to Brandon, and he's supposed to come on the show sometime. And if you look at his background, I mean, he's a huge investor in his community. He's
a rich guy,
very benevolent. He's a very interesting fella, and I just like you, I think he's very interesting, and I hope I can get him on. But so I don't have any. I don't try to criticize people. What I'm trying to do is understand the relationships between people. I'm not trying to say that these people are doing anything nefarious or Lou or politicians. I just think that there seems to be obvious associations, and it doesn't seem like many people are talking about that. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Well, I think it's interesting, like you've got like Eric Weinstein there, I think, in the science category. He was one of the people, along with what was his name, Sam Harris, who were approached by people and kind of courted and I would say groomed, if groomed hasn't been co-opted as a different meaning. But like he was being courted, I guess, and like they're trying to somewhat coached, and they tried to persuade him that this is all real, like him and Sam Harris both. And they were promised that they would be taken to the desert and shown the alien craft or some kind of solid evidence of these things, that these reverse engineering programs were real. But the football kept getting snatched away from them, and it never actually happened. And both of them got disillusioned. Sam Harris, he says he watched some of my videos, and that kind of helped him kind of realize that perhaps there wasn't as much there as he actually thought. And Eric, I think, is he's got his own various theories, but he's also quite suspicious about these people. And who are these people? They're probably some people. Some of them are probably on the board. I mean, one of them is probably Gary Nolan, because Gary Nolan's very dialed into this whole Invisible College, and Luis Elizondo is probably one of them as well. So people like that. There's this little clique of people in the Invisible College who have been courting people like Eric Weinstein and Sam Harris, and perhaps courting people like Dave Grusch, and trying to further their goals, which presumably are getting disclosure done, but might also be making money from disclosure.
One of the interesting things about Eric is that oh shoot, it was right on the tip of my tongue. Darn it. What was I going to say about Eric? Oh, he said in that same interview that you were talking about, I think that was with Joe Rogan, he was talking about that subject you were talking about. He said that if you had a project like a Manhattan style project, that you would actually see not a disappearance as in people getting snatched up and whacked. But you would see you would notice them their absence in the scientific community.
Yeah.
And he's saying that you don't see that. So
yeah, that's an interesting point. That's something like with say the chemtrails conspiracy theory. For the chemtrails conspiracy theory to be true, there would have to be this whole alternate track of climate science, where like a whole bunch of climate scientists and people who are geoengineering researchers would have to be off working for the government running this secret geoengineering program. And then there'd be other people working on the same science in public in parallel, but they're pretending that they don't know or they don't know. You would have to, I don't know, kidnap a bunch of climate scientists or have them, pretend to retire and then go work somewhere. But yeah, and if it was a big thing, like reverse engineering craft. See, that's the thing. Like, people don't seem to appreciate the magnitude of what's being suggested here. Yeah, if we actually have a whole bunch of alien crafts that run on essentially different physical principles to the ones that we're used to, it's going to upend everything. Everything's going to be completely different. Everything will be changed. A variety of industries will be completely knocked askew. And things like the geopolitical order will change because of the defense implications of these new technologies, and science as we know it would be different. So it's almost like it's like modern science has to be a big lie for this theory to work. If we've had like all these things, all these craft with all the amazing properties that they demonstrate available for decades and decades. And we've been somehow like slowly feeding this to academia, and then we invent the transistor, but we do it nice and slow so people don't get suspicious. And then we invent all these other things like metamaterials. That has to come a bit later, though. Is science just a big lie?
What's funny about Eric
wouldn't the scientists discover this? Wouldn't they notice?
Yeah, what's funny about Eric Weinstein is that he was basically. Wow, I'm reading the comments, and that you're making me lose my train of thought here. But Weinstein was not kind to Mick. Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up. Pyramid 7. That was kind of what I was getting around to, was that it's almost like Eric knows more than he's letting on, because it's like he's kind of bucked a few ideas that you've had. This is my impression. It may not be true, and you may not think this, but it's like the issue of him saying in one of his tweets where he's saying, "Oh, what is it? The sworn testimony." Now we're moving. Now we're past, just normal speak, but we've moved on to, and he's kind of backing the idea that the sworn testimony somehow is to the level of, and that's why I brought it up earlier.
I kind of agree with him to a degree there. It is kind of like it kind of forces the issue. It forces Congress to do something about it. If you've got like a high-level person giving sworn testimony, and they obviously people are interested in Congress, but they've also got a whole bunch of other things to worry about. They're not taking it that seriously. And if it was true, like I was just saying, like it would be huge. It'd be earth-shattering. There's all kinds of implications. No, never mind the science and the technology thing. There's the whole what they call the ontological shock, where your view of the universe, your ontology, is changed because before you believe that humans exist and there's nothing out there except a bunch of rocks and maybe some aliens far away, and now you discover, aliens have been visiting the Earth for the last 100 years, and we have alien craft. And I saw one guy said the intelligence community has been talking to aliens, to getting all these new claims coming in. The world changes. Your mind changes, and I think especially for people who are religious, things are going to change. But even I'm an atheist, and my worldview would be vastly modified by the knowledge of something like that.
I think we talked about this a little bit. I think we talked about this a little bit in our last interview, where I was brought up in the church, and I'm not offended, by I really don't think religious people are going to be affected that much.
Well,
maybe the radical, maybe the people who are more ideologically tied to their religion.
yeah.
But for people like me who think that the Creator created everything, the entire, I believe our universe is just in another space. There's multiple, creations out there. I don't believe. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I think people they'll adjust to it pretty rapidly, I think.
Yeah. I think humans are pretty durable. I mean, especially with the onslaught of the internet.
But it's going to be a big thing. I mean, think of big events in recent history, say 9/11. When 9/11 happens, it's this kind of hugely consequential thing to the way the world works and what we feel about the world. Like we suddenly have a much less feeling of safety than we had the day before 9/11. It's like we become we lose our innocence in a way, and everything changes. Everything will change as well when we are told that aliens have actually been visiting us, and we have aliens and we have contact with aliens. Like all that stuff, it's like, what? Yeah, it's like discovering you've got somebody living in your attic that you never knew about, and they've been living there for the last 20 years. That would kind of it would change things, and suddenly you would think, well, if this is true, what else? What else is going on? Are we living in the Matrix? Is the Mandela effect real? Is magic real? Can we do telepathy? Can we levitate? All these possibilities suddenly open up if one kind of seemingly magical thing happens.
Well, especially if it's like what I was saying earlier, where they may be on just a different. We may just not be able to.
That would be magic.
Them. They're all around us.
Magic.
Not magic, though. I mean, I'm saying.
No, obviously magic is science when you understand how it works, because it's part of the universe. But it's what we would call now magic. It's something that seems to exist outside of our understanding of science. And if that is revealed, if you reveal something like beings can exist around you, like thetans just floating in the air, then what else might be real? Could fairies be real? Why not?
I hope not. Yeah, I'd rather aliens be real than fairies. But anyway,
it's the same thing, really. It's like fairies are just a manifestation of some kind of ultra terrestrial, essentially.
Like electricity. Sorry, I'm trying to read it. Let me look at my show notes right quick because I had other questions.
Sure.
The Ross Coulthart thing, where he's done this several times, where he's saying, the things I know make me very afraid. I wonder, it's kind of that is kind of grifterish to make these claims without being able to share details with people, right? I mean, it's kind of like, it's like you were saying, there's a, hey, there's a boogeyman in your closet. I'm just not going to know what it is, or when it's going to be there. Someday you're just going to know it's there.
Yeah, I don't know if you can read too much into it. Like, is he doing it deliberately as a ploy to, get people interested? And there's the whole idea of the threat narrative, where people talk about the threat of UFOs because it engages people more and engages the government, if you can say there's this danger from aliens. And some people think that's disingenuous because the ETs haven't shown any, threat towards us at all, other than abducting a few people, possibly. They're not doing anything destructive. They're not destroying planes. So the threat narrative doesn't really seem to stack up.
I was going to answer this guy's point here. I do a lot of preparation for these interviews, but you can still easily lose your train of thought because you're trying to connect all these concepts. And with somebody like Mick, whose IQ is more than yours, you have a hard time keeping these things going.
I talk too much.
No. I mean, you're trying to keep up with the comments and the like here was a link. This was part of the.
What does that say? Fried egg debunking.
It was just
egg on your face. I see. That's Matt from the Good Trouble show.
Yeah, and it's just more of the more of the sort of vitriol that you get. It seems like, which I think is unfounded.
Yeah, I know. It's like people will always interpret certain things. I mean, Matt, I think he's one of those guys who dislikes me and thinks that I'm evil, and thinks that everything I'm doing is paid for by the government. I'm like a government shill, whereas no one's paying me. I'm losing money right now. The
You
money's
should
just
do a
dripping away.
parody, Dr. Evil. You should do a Dr. Evil parody video sometime, claiming that you're Mick the Evil.
Yeah, Mini Mick.
Mini
a
Mick.
small version of me.
See,
The small evil version of me.
I noticed that this is just a side note here. You know Sabine Hostenfelder, who she is? She's a physicist. Um, she
I don't remember her.
she was she made a tweet. Here, I'll show it here. I'm supposed to be screen sharing again. See, if I was making money, I could afford a producer. See, here we go. So she was saying, I wish this was real. I wish this to be real. And then Eric Weinstein. This is kind of funny. At some point here, he chimes in, and that's the wrong link. We go back. We go here. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to just click on the tweet, not the link. Anyway, I don't need a special effects specialist to tell me impossible effect. This was part of a conversation that was part of the earlier comment where it was just a back and forth between sort of what am I trying to say? Eric was saying that ever since it was sort of going back to the idea that science has kind of slowed down on discoveries, and that he was basically saying that if we hadn't spent so much time on string theory, that
it's just this thing he keeps repeating. It's kind of annoying. Like he's always like, "Oh, physics should be much further advanced by now. We should have flying cars and stuff." I mean, it's like I don't know. It doesn't really mean anything. Like he thinks physics should have been done differently. And he has this weird theory that there was a big conference of gravity researchers in the 50s or 60s or something, and they all mysteriously, did something, and then they stopped doing it. And he's thinking maybe they was sequestered away or something. He doesn't really know what's going on. He has so many questions. He does a lot of asking questions and just throwing up hypotheticals, and complaining that physics isn't as advanced as it should be, and perhaps his whatever it is, his grand unified model, what is the I can't remember what it's called now, the thing where everything is together that he's figured out, he's going to solve all that. But I don't know, it's just it gets a bit repetitive where all he's doing is complaining about physics not being good enough.
I was going to ask the audience who there thinks that when you look at the newest event in Las Vegas, who out there kind of assumed that it was a UFO crash. But I had kind of queued up the video where I wanted to show you this one thing. I know you've seen this, but I want you to know what I'm talking about as far as, let me go back to here and do add stream and go to here. Hopefully I did. Tell me if you can hear the audio.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, let me go back. Sorry. StreamYard. I forgot to do. Let me remove this and stop screen sharing. Fake prank. Yeah. One thing. Part of the video is you hear this. Let me go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and
the noise on the Ring camera.
There you go. That's exactly what it was. And then a boom. That.
There we go. Do the sound effects for you.
Yeah,
I heard that.
That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, the thing about that, I used to do the sound effects for my games back in the day. So I used to do explosion noises. because we couldn't afford a sound designer, so I just recorded them with a microphone.
You didn't have a MIDI machine or whatever.
So yeah, that noise, it's like, to me that sounds like a firework. It sounds like a rocket going up in the sky and then exploding. And part of the reason I say that is that it gets quieter. It starts out loud, and then it gets quieter, and then there's a bang, which is what a rocket does. It goes up in the sky. Rockets can normally go up into the sky and then bang, but there's rockets that are designed to make noise as well. So they're designed to do some kind of like roaring noise, like a roaring rocket. And so that's what it sounded like to me. And then there's a flash. And so I think that's what happened. Like there was this firework. He went outside to see what the noise was, and he saw something in his backyard. And coincidentally, earlier these cops had been, on the other side of the freeway, I think it was, and they were talking to somebody, and on the body cam they caught this meteor flying through the sky, some kind of copper bolide. You can see it's bright green, which means it's made of copper. And the put two and two together. The cops talking about, oh, we just saw something flying through the sky, and the kid says, like, a spaceship landed in my backyard. There was no spaceship in the backyard. There was a round circle in the ground, which was there the year before, because it's just where they turn around with the vehicles. You can see it on Google Earth if you go back in time. And they might have seen, there probably was something in the backyard. Could have been a critter, like a coyote or a raccoon, or it could be someone trying to steal something from the backyard. Don't know what it was, but there's no evidence whatsoever of it being anything kind of alien-esque, other than this kid saying he saw a 10-foot high alien.
The thing is that one of the first things I did in my construction career was like demolition projects, right? So when buildings fall over and crash, they don't just lay over, right? They fall over, they crash, and everything around them is affected by either the wave,
Mm-hmm.
either the air blast or whatever. If something was crashing or even landing like that, you would have more of an effect on the ground, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have this neat little circle in the gravel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole case just doesn't really pass the sniff test. It's not. I was really surprised at how much attention it got, and how many people were into it. I think perhaps it was because we had the David Grusch thing, and everyone's going, "Oh my God, aliens are real!" And then what can we focus on? Like, and then here's a UFO case in Vegas. Like, let's look into it. And so this is the only new video that's out at the moment. That's something I was saying to somebody the other day, like, was that I need some new videos to analyze. There's no good videos. People keep sending me stuff like, there was one, like some photos in the Daily Mail. It was like the red arrows or whatever, the aerobatic thing, and there's a black dot in the middle of the formation. It's a fly. You can tell it's a fly. You can see it's out of focus, and you can see a little bit of its white wings. But there's nothing good coming out. I guess like people are transitioning over to the crashed thing, which is another thing actually. A slight pivot here. Like we've got crashed UFOs, and then we've got landed UFOs, same type of thing, and then we've got like the other UFOs, the ones that are actually flying around. What's the direct connection between those two things? Now you could say like obviously like the ones that are on the ground are the same as the ones that are in the sky. But why don't they talk about that? How do they get from the ground to the sky? Did we see them crash? Have we also seen lots of these particular craft in the sky? Now we know what these things look like. Are we seeing them in the sky? Are we tuning our detectors for these particular things? Are any of the ones that have shown up, like gimbal, could that be one of these things? The one that was football field sized, like what's going on with that? Have people being? Is that the same as the Phoenix Lights? Is it the same thing? It's like we're just talking about these things that are on the ground, and then we've also been talking about things that are on the sky. But can we kind of meld those together into one kind of grand unified theory of UFOs that kind of explains both things?
I've always wondered why, if they were actually crashed alien vehicles, is it that they traveled this distance and they underestimated our gravity or
Ooh.
our
I think
electromagnetic field
no,
around the Earth?
I don't
Or,
think so. I mean, one of the UFOlogy arguments is that they say like Mick, like we've been an industrial society for like say 200 years. It was only like 100 years ago that the Ford Model T was invented, and 100 years since like the first flight of the Kitty Hawk, and now we have like spaceships, and look at the amazing progress we've made in just 100 years, like from like rubber band planes to the space shuttle. And imagine what a civilization that's had another 100 years, or 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, or 1,000,000 years to develop their technology. So their technology is amazing. It's the most incredible technology ever. They're able to like go from other star systems through wormholes in the center of the galaxy and end up where they want to. And they're so advanced that they're doing things that seem to us to be like magic, and yet they're crashing all the time. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I guess some people would say, well, maybe they were shot down or something like that. But again, you would think that their defensive systems would be a little more effective.
I think Grusch listed 3 things. I think it was him. It might be one of the other people reporting on a different eyewitness, but he said that some of them crashed, some of them landed, and some of them were captured. Like, here's this civilization that's 10,000 years more advanced than us. It's like they're coming and like sometimes they land and just walk away. Sometimes they crash into a hillside and like the thing's partly destroyed and the bodies are in it. And sometimes they get captured by the United States military. What are they doing? Like they have a Huey with a big net that like captures a flying saucer. It's lots of questions are raised by the claims that are being made.
So I think people get this kind of wrong about both of us, where we obviously both aren't going to be surprised if there's other life, right? We're not going to be.
No, I mean,
and it's going to be interesting. I invite it. I just think, what I personally want is people to be. Here's my theory: is that if more people were like you, and then a little bit like me, we would actually get results quicker, right? I think whoever is trying to hold these secrets really loves people who are just faithful believers with no right, who don't, you know what I mean, who just believe everything that's fed to them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like it seems right now that there is a push to try to get information out, but I don't know. We need like an Edward Snowden event in the UFO world, like, and it's really surprising, I think, that hasn't happened. If it has in fact been going on for 80 years. I mean, have they really managed to convince every single person that they shouldn't, do an Edward Snowden, like, release the data and then flee to another country, or flee to another country and release the data? It's been so many years. It seems really surprising that hasn't happened. But, it does, like, to your point there, it kind of does seem like they're trying to get information out, but it's coming in dribs and drabs. Like, Ross Coulthart did an interview with this guy, but we haven't even seen it yet. We've seen a few selected, edited clips of it. Now we're going to see a 1-hour edited segment of this, like many hours of interviews that he has done. So we're just getting like little bits of the story that have been selected for us by Ross and Gary and the team. And it's like, why don't you just release everything that you have? Everything that's not covered by classification, just stick it all out there, give us the whole interview. Like, what are you waiting for? You're getting paid a lot of money to release it on a Sunday? What's actually going on here?
Well, I imagine there's a little bit of that, right? There's a little bit of how can I not look like a grifter but make money at the same time?
Yeah, well, I've heard that they want to make money so they can pay to promote disclosure and promote this event and pay the lawyers and stuff like that. But they're still making money.
But who's
somehow.
collecting that? Who's collecting that money? Does that mean
I don't know. I guess that lawyer McCulloch, the lawyer in his law firm.
I think you kind of answered this question. What sort of evidence would it take to convince you? Well,
yeah, I get asked that question a lot, and it's really there's a whole bunch of levels, and I obviously, like, if we have a flying around alien spaceship with an alien ambassador inside it, that would be great, but we're not going to get that. So it's like, what's the first step? And I think the first step is to have, and this all might be redundant by Sunday when he tells us what's going on, but the first step would be a demonstration that something actually anomalous is actually happening. And that would have to be a multi-sensor recording of an anomalous event, which could be as simple as just two people in different ends of the park taking video with their iPhone of a UFO like zipping around above the trees. That was obviously doing something that couldn't be done with drones or planes or whatever. It could be something that simple, or it could be just a good video with some radar data, or good video with 5 or 6 different independent witnesses. We haven't really had that kind of multi-data corroboration of an anomalous event. Like, all the good stuff is like single videos, or it's these eyewitness accounts that they're all kind of different, and they don't really match up, and it's difficult to verify them because we don't have any other data, or we have these fuzzy photos. So I think I need to go a little bit better data, like 2 video cameras is the great start.
I can't quite put my thumb on it, because on the one hand, I think, well, if it's our technology, why aren't we winning more wars? Because obviously we could be the ultimate dominator on the battlefield, it seems like. And is it one of those things where, like in World War II, when we broke the code of the Germans with
I was actually looking. That's funny you mentioned that. I was looking at that today. I was going to use that as an example.
We couldn't actually expose that, right? We couldn't actually expose the fact that we had broken the code.
Yeah, and there's a few kind of misconceptions about that. Like, there was the British who broke it. It's Alan Turing and the people at Bletchley Park, and they actually lied to the Americans about it. They claimed that they hadn't actually broken this code because it was such a sensitive thing that they thought, if you want to keep secrets, then don't tell anybody. Hey, who's this mysterious figure looming out of the darkness?
Hello, Alexei. You're late.
Can you see me all right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little late. We're almost done.
I know. I felt bad not joining. I've been out on the river, and I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Hey, Alexei. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mick. How's everything going tonight?
Very good. Yeah, we're having a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Did you have any questions for Mick?
No, it was more just I didn't want to be rude and not show up kind of thing. So I sent you a couple emails like 20, 30 minutes ago, and I said, hey, I'm kind of out. Maybe I'll
not to me
join. But that's about it.
Oh, yeah, we started right at 9, so I probably missed the emails. But we've just been talking about the current events, the Las Vegas thing and the David Grusch thing, and had a really good conversation. And again, I'm trying to show that we can have civil discussions about this stuff and be friends and have, have comments from the audience, and everybody goes home happy and feels like they've learned something, and without the vitriol, that we get on social media. I can't really have a conversation with anybody about this. Really, it seems like it always turns into an argument.
Well,
social media.
I 100% agree, and no one moves forward when you don't speak about something with a calm set. The second you start becoming emotional about things, you might be becoming emotional about things, and you're not being very reasonable.
Yeah, and that's how I always try to do that. I always try to be calm. I think that sometimes comes across as me being distant and disaffected. But yeah, you've also got to be, I guess, genuinely emotionally engaged with people as well. You can't just be like a robot. Yes, I understand your point, but perhaps it was just a light in the sky. So you got to actually like, you got to be genuine in your communications, which is kind of difficult to do on Twitter because Twitter is naturally a kind of a robotic way of communicating.
It's not as bad as Reddit. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Darson.
No, I was just going to say to that point. I think you do a good job though, Mick, because it's sort of disarming. Because I have a tendency to let other people bring my level of emotion up. I try to keep the emotion out of it, but sometimes you tend to let them bring you to that point. I think you do a good job of not, if you remain sort of even with your emotions, it kind of disarms the whole, vitriol.
Yeah, I think that just kind of comes with like, doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And knowing what works. It's not just like I'm trying to manipulate people or anything like that. It's just that, I want to have a good conversation with people. And I know that like, acting like, that's a stupid idea isn't going to work. Or, go back to school, get some education. You should learn about physics. You can't say things like that to people. And, even just, at a much simpler level, like questioning their experiences. And suggesting, well, maybe you had some kind of brain, thing going on. It's not good. So you got to be respectful of people, and you got to learn, what pushes people's buttons, and how do you actually communicate with people who may have certain preconceptions, and it's just all about having a good conversation so that both sides, both people, can make some progress with it.
Yeah, I think one of the most. Oh, go ahead, Alexei. Sorry.
I just want to say I actually need to get off again. My boat ride is back. It's a tiki hut on the water, but that's where I think it's really important to do have that. I know, right? It's tiki night, but so I think it's important to have that objective point of view, and I 100% agree with everything you're saying, Mick. And I wish there were more people like you. That way, it would even the playing ground. Let me put it that way.
I agree. Yeah. Everyone should be just like me.
No. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can all.
It's good to have that objective.
We can all learn from each other, I think, and listening to each other like honestly and openly, I think, is a very good step.
Well, thanks for dropping in, Alexei.
100%. And Artisan, I'll let you guys. And I'm Nick. Great seeing you guys again, and I'll get back with you next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for dropping in, Alexei.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. I'll see you guys.
See you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most annoying things about social media to me are the memes, honestly. Like, it just, and it's almost a meme now. Like the meme, it's even a text to me, right? Whenever it's like, so when you posted the tweet about the clouds, the line in the clouds, people immediately went to the memes, even the text version. Seagull.
Yeah, Eric Weinstein said it was maybe a seagull.
Yeah, that's kind of that's what made me think of it.
You got to let that roll off you. If you let it get to you, it's just a waste of time, really. But it's.
And I understand it's kind of the nature of social media, so you have to kind of deal with it.
Yeah. I've muted a lot of people. I blocked a few people, but I generally just mute people because people don't get the satisfaction of or they don't get riled up by being blocked. So if you just mute them, then you can just ignore them, because I'm going to ignore them anyway if they're just constantly doing stuff like the seagull jokes and things like that. So I engage with people when they want to engage constructively. I usually give people a couple of chances, but I think there's so many people out there. You can't be giving chances to everybody. So if anybody wants to talk to me, no seagulls.
Well, I appreciate you carving out some time for PiFi, the PiFi show. I really appreciate it, and because that's one of my goals, is to have interesting people who are civil and intelligent, and you know what I mean? It's just it's a delight to speak with people who can have a conversation and discuss different.
Well, thank you for the conversation.
And maybe when we have a real discovery, we can come back. You can come back and say, Darn it. It was real
I
all
was
along.
wrong. Yeah. Well, yeah, very, very briefly, I think on that point, yeah, maybe I'll be wrong about aliens, but the vast majority of my video analyses will still be correct because I actually identified the things in these videos, like, you know, like this was a plane, this was whatever it was. So it's not like every single thing that I've done is going to be proven wrong. It's just my opinion about whether aliens are here or not might be proven wrong. Maybe we'll find out on Sunday. But we
Well,
probably won't.
and I wasn't even meaning that. I was kind of joking.
No, I
around
know you weren't.
because we even talked about how we both kind of would accept it easily if it was true. So,
Yeah.
but thanks again,
All right.
Nick. I know
Yeah,
you're
thank
work
you.
time for you, and I appreciate
I
you
am going to go.
coming,
It's almost-
and hopefully we'll see you again sometime.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night to you.
See ya. All right, that was Mick West, and it's awesome that he. It was kind of questionable as to whether he was going to come or not because he was busy with making some of his analysis videos, but it's really awesome that we have people like him. I know, you know, people don't like him to a certain extent, but I think we need to keep in mind that we just try to remain civil, you know, with each other, and I think we're going to get further down the road. Anyway, I'll quit rambling unless somebody has any questions, and we will see you on the next one. And hopefully, we'll get Gary Nolan. I'm just going to go out on the limb and say he's supposed to come on sometime, hopefully in June or July. And then everybody talk to Brandon Fugel, try to get him, talk to him. He's busy with the new season of Skinwalker Ranch and that new series they're doing. But hopefully we'll get some more guests on and have some more interesting conversations. But thanks all for showing up and supporting the channel and offering up comments and questions. It really makes it all worthwhile. Thank you guys.